Hello, mamas, and welcome to Playfully Faithful Parenting. I'm your host, Joy, and it is such an honor to be recording episode 101. Oh, I cannot believe it. I remember last summer when I started this podcast and I did the first episode as 001 and just dreaming of the day when that very first zero would be a one. And I was like, oh, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Well, it has, because God is faithful, and you guys are faithful listeners. So thank you, Playfully Faithful mamas. I just so appreciate that. If you were one of the first 14 or so listeners last week to the Thursday episode, you heard some crazy jumbled episode, and I am so sorry for that. I don't exactly know what happened, but I do know that I got it fixed after the first 14 listeners. So, if you were one of them and you did not go back and listen, I invite you to go back and listen. And it would just make my daughter's day to hear some feedback from that episode with her. It was just so fun to record an episode with her and let her interview me. She's just been wanting to be on here for so long. And just because it was fun does not mean it was easy. Mamas, oh my goodness. There were tears the first day we recorded. I'm talking too fast. I'm not talking loud enough. I'm this, I'm that. My voice doesn't sound good. I can't do it. And it was just really a beautiful opportunity to speak truth and unconditional love into her and to share something that I've spent so much time on over the past year, something that's my play, and to invite my daughter into that and help her to grow. And then when we had to re-record because it was crazy, and for some reason even all the files I saved were crazy, when I asked her, I was like, hey, we've got to re-record this. And we didn't have very long. And it was in the morning before school. And I was like, Hollings, we've got to get this done. And she was like, okay. And she just came in and she was so confident. And it was such a blessing to see the way she grew in that. And so please just indulge me and send some feedback for Hollings. I would just so appreciate that. And again, if you want to help celebrate 100 episodes, I would love a review on iTunes, or Apple Podcasts now. So I would just really appreciate that. So thank you so much. And let's dive into today's topic. It is the fourth Monday of the month. And so that means we are going to talk about how to be a playful parent. And we're talking about play. And actually today we're going to try to help our kids to be more playful. And we're going to be talking about how to encourage our children to be independent players. How do we help our children to learn to play independently? Some kids are just very naturally independent players, and they can play by themselves and keep themselves occupied for long periods of time. Other kids, for various reasons, are not, and that's okay. It is a skill that kids can learn and that we can encourage and grow in them. So I have 5 tips today on how to help our kids learn to play independently. So the first tip is choose toys wisely. So I am not talking about the Christian parent debate of Disney versus not Disney. That's not where I'm going with this. I am encouraging you, especially as you're being intentional in growing your children to play independently, to pick toys that are age appropriate. So you don't want to be setting up your 2 to 3-year-old with the tiny Lego blocks and then planning to walk away. Because they're going to get frustrated because it's not going to go well for them because they're not designed for them, or any other toys that are too challenging or too simple. So you want to have age appropriate toys for your child. Or I technically prefer developmentally appropriate because with neurodiverse kids, it's not about the age, it's about their mental development. So developmentally appropriate toys, then preferably not electronic. That is going to lose your kids' ability to focus. Now you might think, oh, I can give them a tablet and that will distract them for an hour or whatever. No, that's not when we are teaching our kids to independently play. Electronics are not going to be the go-to toy to use. It actually is going to stop them, prevent them from focusing the way we need them to focus for independent play. So you're going to want open-ended toys that allow for creativity, that allow for learning about cause and effect, and that are going to be open-ended. And so these are things like dress-up clothes, blocks, art things. You're not going to want to set your kid up with a bunch of paint where they could paint all over the walls when you're not there. But stickers or crayons, again, my house, we don't do markers when there's not a parent around for our littles. So whatever art appropriate things you have there. Magnetiles are amazing. Dolls, cars, trains, dinosaurs, animals, any of those kind of things that your kid gets to decide what the play looks like. And so things that make noises, things that move on their own, that is not setting your child up to focus. That is directing your child, and true play is child-led. And so the toys need to be led by the child as well. So, step number 1, choose toys wisely. Step number 2, once we get them, and we're going to get there in just a minute, but it is important that when your child does begin playing, whether you're with them or they are now alone, either way, you don't want to interrupt, not to praise them, not to ask questions, not to see what they're doing. Do not interrupt them. I know as a mama, I've made a whole episode about being interruptible. And we, as moms, I believe, need to learn to be more interruptible. But that doesn't mean that we like to be interrupted, right? And our children don't either when they are focused, when they are working. And play is the work of a child. That's a quote from Maria Montessori. Play is the work of a child. And so when you are in the zone and you are working, or you're cooking or decorating a cake or cookies or whatever you're doing, and you're just in the zone, you don't want to be interrupted, right? Especially not by someone asking, "Oh, what are you doing?" Or, "Oh, that looks nice." Like something that doesn't add to the moment, right? You want to wait when the cake looks great and you're all finished and you're not focused, and you want to be able to say, "Look what I've done." And that's when you want praise, not someone coming in or someone, trying to take a bite of the icing. That is distracting. And when we see our kids playing well, whether it's independently or even with a sibling, and we say, "Oh, you two are playing so nicely together," that focus of being in the game and that relationship that they're building, you just broke it. That focus is now going to take a lot more effort for them to get back into that moment, back in the zone. So let's not do that. And not to ask questions either. It's like, "Oh, that's so pretty. What are you drawing?" Or, "Tell me." You may have the best questions in the world that engage your kids and invite conversation and that scaffolding, like all these wonderful things. But unless they invite you in to that conversation, do not break their focus. Okay? All right. So then we are going to build up time. So we cannot set up this great environment. We've got perfect toys. We know we're not going to interrupt them, and we've got them, and they're just starting, and we're not going to leave them there for 30 minutes. No, they need to build up time. So especially if they're younger, even babies can learn to build up time and independently play. So no matter what, and babies, of course, any kid, you're going to want to make sure the environment's safe. That's a given. You know that. But we want to build up time. You want to start with maybe 1 minute, depending on the abilities of your child, the current being able to be by themselves and play individually. You want to start with just a minute. And so this is not something that's going to happen overnight. All right. So we're going to start with just 1 to 3 to 5 minutes at the most to start with, depending on your kid's current starting place. Okay. So we know we're going to build up time, and it's going to take a couple of days, a couple of weeks, and we're just going to build up time. So starting with, say, 1 to 3 minutes, and then 5 minutes, and then maybe 10 minutes. And then you can just go and see how long they'll go. But 2 ways that we can begin depending on your child. If you want to just jump right in and try to get started, I would say you can begin by you go in to whatever environment, playroom for us, or a bedroom, or maybe in the family room, maybe even at the kitchen table, wherever you want your child to be playing. And you're going to begin by playing with them. And you're going to give them a heads up and say, "Okay, mommy's going to play with you for 5 minutes. And then I'm going to have to go and do, put away the towels." Something very concrete. I'm going to go do this. When I'm done with the towels, which will take 5 minutes, I will come back and check on you. All right. So then you're giving them a heads up. They know what's going to happen. You begin by playing with them for, you said 5 minutes. So you set a timer. You're playing, interacting. Your phone is not in your hand. You're interacting with them, giving them some of that attention, and and time that they need. Then the timer goes off and you say, okay, it's time for mommy to go put the towels away. When I'm done, I'm going to work on that for 5 minutes and then I will be right back. So then again, you set a timer for 5 minutes. If they cry or they're upset, they don't want you to leave, you can be empathetic. I hear you. You don't want mommy to leave. Mommy loves you. Mommy needs to go do the towels. I will be back in 5 minutes. I would love for you to keep playing. And when I come back, I can't wait for you to share with me what you've done. Be empathetic, but be consistent. You said you were going to leave. Don't just keep giving 5 more minutes. Okay. We need to be consistent. You can, if the 5 minutes isn't going to work, you can say, okay, I'm going to just go put one towel away and I'll be back in 1 minute. If the 5 minutes is not going to work, again, you could start small if you need to, right? So, or you could say, I'm going to go to the bathroom and I will be right back. But you don't want to sneak off because that shows a kid that you can't be trusted. You want to tell your kid and be upfront and honest. I'm going away. I'm going to the bathroom. I'm going to do laundry. I'm going to do dishes, whatever it may be. I will be back in X minutes, and set a timer. And then here's one of the really important parts is you come back when you say you will. If you say, I'm going to go to the bathroom, I will be back in 3 minutes. And then you notice they're playing really well. So you just kind of hide and sneak and go do something else. You're not showing that you can be trusted with what you've said. And mama, you can be. And you know you saw your child at 3 minutes, but your child doesn't know that. Or you know you listened for your child at 3 minutes, but your child doesn't know that. So we need to let our kids experience the safety and trust that we are offering them in that moment. So, mommy will be back in 3 minutes. You show up in the room at 3 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever time it is. So that, and then you can build that up. If that is not even, if you can't even start there, right? You can't even start by leaving. You can begin with parallel play. So you take something that you want to work on. That could be play for you. It could be reading your Bible. It could be reading a book. It could be working on your laptop. Something productive, something fun, whatever it is. You can paint your own picture while they're doing their watercolors, or color your own picture, or, whatever. And do some parallel play. And so first you maybe start off and you color together. And you're coloring on her sheet and, you're taking turns. And then you say, okay, we're going to color together work on your project for 5 minutes. And then mommy's going to work on her project, but I'm going to be right here. And then you can separate that. And so the timer goes off at 5 minutes and you say, okay, I'm going to work on this for 5 minutes. I will be right here with you. You work on yours. And then you can do that and build up time with that parallel play. And so that you're both doing something independently, but together. And so then if you need to, really do this in baby steps, you do that. And then you can set her up at the kitchen table and say, okay, you color together for 5 minutes and you say, I'm going to go do some dishes. I'm right over here on the other side of the room. We're still together. And then you do that. And then you can maybe, after that feels comfortable and she can do that for a few minutes or he can do that for a few minutes, then maybe the next time you move them to the next room and you build up again. But you start with connection. You start as much as possible with being with them for a few moments, undistracted by your phone or your work. You focus on them, give them that attention for a few minutes to start. And then when the timer goes off, you can come back and you can just, if we don't want to interrupt, remember, but we do want them to see that we're there. And so you go in, you know, you come back at 3 minutes, and you stand there and you can watch and observe your child until they look up at you. And when they look up at you, you can wave. You can wait and see if they speak to you first, but let them invite you into the moment. But you just stand and observe. This is building up their ability to independently play. And so again, this isn't going to be an overnight thing. It does take time, but by the end, you will be able to set your child up in their bedroom or whatever, and you will be able to go and do some work independently, and they will be growing in their play skills, and they will be learning to focus and learning cause and effect and learning consequences and what happens when they do this. And they'll be learning to experiment and growing and learning patience and executive function. And so much good stuff happens when they really get focused and play. And so I used this verse a few weeks ago, but man, I just haven't been able to get it out of my head. Psalm 92:5 says, "O Lord, what great works you do, and how deep are your thoughts." I used that verse a few weeks ago when I was talking about the difference between play and entertainment. And I just can't, God just keeps bringing this verse to my mind, in that really is what happens for us when we play, is that we are able to do great works. We are able to learn. We are able to be creative like God, our Father, and our thoughts deepen. Our focus increases. Our creativity increases. And wow, oh Lord, what great works you do, and how deep are your thoughts. When we want to allow our kids an opportunity to developmentally appropriate ways to be more like God, we get to offer them play so that they can also do great works and learn to deepen their thoughts. So, mamas, here again are those 5 steps. Choose toys wisely. Don't interrupt. Build up time. Maybe start with parallel play, and then begin by playing with them and starting with connection. And that connection goes through to the end when you come back, when you say you will. So, mamas, you have the Holy Spirit. And of course, pray all throughout this for the Spirit's wisdom and guidance and comfort for your child if it is a hard time. Okay? And you have the Holy Spirit with you. You can do this, mamas. It's going to be so beneficial for your child and for you. And on behalf of God, thank you for loving and playing with his kids. Have a great week, mama.